Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, bigotry in bedsheets, the ignorant, the unbalanced, the venal completely pervert the motto, "Make America safe for Americans." Spawned by the Civil War, the Klan comes to life again in the wake of another war. Its symbols, the cross and the flag. Its weapons, intimidation and terror, intolerance and crime. Secret hocus pocus comes the ludicrous ceremony of initiation used at all conclaves. Are you a native-born white Gentile American? Will you faithfully strive for the eternal maintenance of white supremacy? But behind this adolescent mumbo-jumbo lies the ugly reality. Negroes, Catholics, Jews, foreigners, persecute them all. Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C. The invisible empire becomes bold enough, strong enough, 5 million strong, to make itself thoroughly visible.
Starting in the late 1800s, right after the American Civil War, and continuing even today, the KKK, or Ku Klux Klan, is a radical hate group whose political ideology is centered around nationalism, white supremacy, nativism, Christian terrorism, anti-Semitism, and anti-Catholicism. Unbeknownst to most, the Ku Klux Klan actually had 3 clans, each one centering around a different time period and bearing a different amount of members. Each clan supported a slightly different ideal. However, they all shared one common similarity, spreading the message of hatred and intolerance. The first Klan originated in May of 1866 in Pulaski, Tennessee. This Klan had a population in the high 500,000s and lasted up until the 1870s. After the Civil War, many people in the South worried that black people would be given too much freedom. Organizations were formed from armed vigilantes, and thus the Ku Klux Klan was born. They terrorized people with lynches and whippings. When people saw the white sheets approaching, they were instantly terrified beyond reason. General Forrest, a Confederate cavalry leader, was made the Grand Wizard of the first Ku Klux Klan in January of 1869. Forrest ordered the disbandment of the first KKK, but this didn't stop the rest of the members. The next Klan to take its place, aptly named the Second Klan, had its origin in 1915 and began to peak at around 1925 at over 6 million members strong. The Second Klan was founded by William J. Simmons. During this time and throughout the 1920s, Hiram Wesley Evans was the head of the KKK. He was a dentist whose self-imposed Klan name was the Imperial Wizard. Their focus of hatred was centered mainly around Catholics, immigrants, Jews, and those of non-white ethnicity. They hated these groups of people because they feared that their massive immigration would ruin traditions in the United States. The second Ku Klux Klan was far more successful than the first. They grew rapidly, not only in the South, but in the North as well. Though they claimed to not be vested in politics, they had control over most of the political world in their counties. In the mid-1920s, however, after finding multiple cases of murder, state laws were created that eliminated the secretivity of the organization. As the KKK became more known to the public, many people lost interest and the organization fell apart.
To keep the African Americans out of power and to be able to control them and the rest of the South, the KKK gained an advantage when the Jim Crow laws were passed. The Jim Crow laws basically stated that whites must be segregated from African Americans in all ways of life, yet still remain equal. A large part of the KKK falling apart had to do with several laws being put in place to put a damper on their activities. A few of the biggest laws put in place to stop the KKK were the Enforcement Acts. These were 3 laws enacted to protect African American legal rights such as voting, holding office, and serving on juries. This act was later re-amended to give them even more rights. The most important of these 3 acts was the Ku Klux Klan Act. It was specifically to target the KKK. This act turned several of the KKK's tactics of intimidation into federal offenses. Lastly, the Third Klan began right around 1946 and has continued to this day. Although it has been officially declared now as a terrorist organization, there are still an estimated 5,000 members of the Ku Klux Klan. The KKK had a far reach across the United States during the 1920s. Although they were focused mainly in the southern and eastern portions of the United States, there were clans founded in Washington, Oregon, and California as well. As some of these organizations grew, others across the country would begin to try and slow down the growth of other parts of the Klan that did not agree with the entirety of the KKK's message. Now you may wonder, how did the KKK come into creation in the first place? Well, on December 24th, 1865, right after the American Civil War, 6 educated Confederate veterans created the Klan during the Reconstruction period after the Civil War. The name originated from the Greek word kaiklos when it was combined with the word Klan. Some historians think that the KKK came into fruition due in part to many of the post-Civil War Confederate vets that were abhorred by the idea that white supremacy was quickly fading away from the ever-changing world. So why did they wear those goofy outfits? They looked like ghosts. Well, there were a few reasons behind the way they dressed like that. For starters, even though the outfit looked a little silly, it did an excellent job of concealing the wearer's identity. They needed this because at the time, the majority of the KKK's members operated in small rural communities where people had a tendency to recognize other people's faces. There was another reason, though, that they dressed the way they did. Their chosen time of attack was at night, and their chosen attire added to the dramatic effect of their nighttime raids through their neighborhoods. There was also a women's Ku Klux Klan, though. Although the men were fine with women's rights, they did not want them in the Klan, so the women made their own Klan called the WKKK. One of the reasons the women wanted to join was because they now wanted to stand by their husbands and fathers, except the men didn't like this. The other reason they made the WKKK was because they were able to, now that they had the women's rights, mothers, daughters, and wives of Klansmen made up the majority of the WKKK. Some of the rules they had to be able to join were that you had to be at least 16 years old, born in America, white, and Protestant of religion. In many states, they were a well-sized minority of the Klan, but in India, it grew to around half the size of all Klan members in that state.